Hi, it's Yvonne from Purple Pulpo, and today in our Zoom pod, we're going to be looking at the new Jolly Phonics Pupils book, and it comes complete with a whole new range of resources and materials to accompany it. But today, let's just have a look at Pupil Book 1. So Pupil Book 1 has a new look, but it has a lot of the familiar things that we know from the old book, but it's a little bit better organized and there is a huge variety of activities. So I've just popped in the Pupil Book 2 for you to see. So the three books have been changed, and let's have a look at the first page of book one, and it's the first sound in group one. As you can see, there's a lot of the same things here. We have the colouring activity, we also have the handwriting practice, and also the visual cues that have the first letter sound for children to listen to. And I'm giving you page two to look at so you can see the progression as we've got the single sound with the dot, and then we move on with the first sound and the second sound. So it's pretty similar here to the old format. But something that is different is that the pages and the groups are all color coded. And I'll show you that in another slide. So let's have a look at page one. As I said, a lot of the familiar things that are here. But what you will see is that the illustrations, which are really good if we're teaching in a second language. But what it does here, it says the three have the sound at the beginning. Now, what we've got to remember is children who are working through a second language may not know what the beginning means, or first, or initial sounds. So, this is something that might be easy for them if we have the words written underneath the visual cues. I often do this even when children are just starting with their reading and writing skills, because when we're talking about the beginning or the first letter sounds, they need to see what we're talking about. So they can make some correlation between the snake and the s sound. And this is just passive underlying foundation learning that I'm doing here. They haven't done these sounds, but they will do later on. So it's just passively being introduced. And then what I have done is put the vowel sounds in red so that later on they'll make a connection between the consonants and the vowel sounds. So having it here underneath, when I talk about the sound at the beginning, I can highlight the beginning so they understand what the beginning and the end means. Remember, this is quite challenging if you're not speaking English as your first language to understand what the positioning means of the beginning and the end. And what you will also see that is highlighted for us is that the children can also, as I've mentioned in my other Zoom pods, work to a red dot, so it's not overpowering for them to put in the handwriting of the sound. And also here, they're given an example of what they need to cross out. These examples aren't given all the way through, but on the first page, it's just so they know what is required of them in this activity. So you can see it's a few tips here for if you're using this with children who are non-English speakers. As you can see here, we still have the familiar thing of the blending and segmenting using the dots to indicate each sound. And also here, what you can see is they have to put the first sound. So they only have to put the letter or the letter sound here. And again, it might be good to do some pre-model work before you actually do the activity, where you have the words underneath and then they can see where the letter is positioned. Because one thing we've got to remember is that when we're teaching this sound, we don't always want it to be at the beginning. We want the children to hear it in the middle or at the end. So, here's a good example to wrap, trap, rest. They're hearing it not always as the initial sound, because otherwise they just tend to think that's where it's going to be placed. So that's something that we can remember. So also what you can see is the variety of the activities, whereas before it was handwriting skills where they were doing their fine motor skill development, writing the letter sound. Here we have them filling in the dots of the sounds that they hear. So I picked here fish, fish. It's three sounds. So again, we're using that multisensory technique that they have of blending and segmenting on their hand and tapping out the sounds. That's now moved to a physical thing where we're using the fine motor skills and we're actually filling in the sounds on paper. And that will transpose nicely to writing. Also, here you can see the range of colours, and I like the idea of having the colours because if you've ever taught a group of young children in a busy classroom, trying to get them to go to page 29 or 31, they don't know what these numbers mean. So, having colours, at least you can direct them to the blue section or the pink section or the yellow section. And again, we're revising colours. And even if you have the number up on the board, they can look for it a little bit easier. But if any of you worked with small children and having to get them to the page they have to start their writing at, you can often know that this is quite a long process and you can lose a lot of time. And you can see the progression of the groups in the book, and we go to tricky words and reading and writing. But I'm not going to go into the reading and writing section today because there's an awful lot of work that can be done in this section. But I'm going to end this little Zoom pod showing you all the things that can be done in the pupils book. And as you can see, it's a huge amount of skills that the children are learning, and also the strategies as well to go with blending and segmenting and learning their phonic sounds. So I hope that this has been a little bit of help to you for you to see the new books that come out in 2021. But equally, you can be using the books you have now. This is just a different style and format, but we are tuning in the skills that the children have and also getting them to learn a variety of ways to start writing, to start understanding the sound discrimination, and also letter to sound discrimination. So thank you again for joining me for one of my Zoom pods, and I look forward to seeing you again. Have a great week. Bye for now.